Ari, and we've got Brian. Hey, what do you, because I check out JoeRogan.net, I check out Brian's website, I check out Ari's material, and I see some photos and some video posted, but this guy's shooting video at 4 o'clock in the morning when we're in Las Vegas. I mean, what is all this video going into?
It's the New World Order. Brian is the actual New World Order chief. He's the head guy. It's like, what was that movie with Kaiser Soze? You know, when you think that this loser is just a loser, but it turns out he's Kaiser Soze? That's Brian's Kaiser Soze.
No, I understand. He's like a master of viral internet media.
He is the master. He's the #1 guy.
He's also the master of hummingbirds.
He knows hummingbirds inside and out.
And I like hummingbirds.
He's a professional video editor. He just makes brilliant little videos.
No, I know, but I'd like to see a big extended Joe Rogan behind the scenes.
Yeah, but
Joe Rogan, mayhem.
Most of the interesting stuff we do something with, but a lot of it is, hey, let's go eat. Just like this stuff, you know. A lot of it is, oh, who farted? You know what I mean? A lot of it is not that interesting.
All right, Joe, we got 20 minutes left. I am going to try to just sit back, which is hard to do, and shut up.
Come on,
and I want Joe Rogan's view on the world, technology advancing at an accelerated rate. Humans can't, evolve psychologically to deal with it.
That's absolutely true.
Okay, well, you get where I'm going then. Talk about that.
That's a fascinating thing. I mean, if you look at, physically how we've developed and evolved, we haven't evolved that much over the last, few thousand years, but technology has just gone through the roof. It's gotten to a crazy place where we have this unbelievable control over our environment, the ability to construct giant buildings and send photos through the air. I mean, it's a very, very heady thing, and I think it would take like an incredibly enlightened society just to deal with what we're capable of right now. Never mind what's coming in the future as this, exponentially increasing technology, the advancement, the innovation. It's all coming at like this incredibly rapid pace. And, physically we're like the same. Emotionally, we're still tribal monkeys, but we have this incredible power now.
And that's why a lot of scientists believe we won't get to a type 1 society, meaning a society that survives and gets off planet, that we're probably going to destroy ourselves.
Well, it's either that or telepathy. Those are the two possibilities. Either people, the idea of telepathy is ridiculous to people. The idea it's like ghosts or Bigfoot or anything nonsense, anything that we don't have hard proof of. You bring it up.
But the studies show it's real.
The studies do show, and it could certainly be real. If you can smell things. The idea that you can you can detect something with your nose that you can't see it.
But when somebody's looking through your window at night.
Sometimes.
I can't tell you how many times I have known somebody's looking at me when I'm walking around on my family ranch.
They say that is the #1 way that they can show that there is some sort of a connection between human beings telepathically is the ability to recognize when someone's staring at you. They've done scientific studies on that, and they've proven beyond a shadow.
Look, 100% of the time when I'm in a restaurant, and I feel somebody staring at me, especially if it's with bad intent, there's some redneck doesn't like me or something, I'll feel it and I'll turn around and they'll be going and they'll go.
Yeah, that's a weird thing, isn't it? It's a weird thing that we can detect that, and I think that is just, look, at one point in time we couldn't communicate. But if you believe in evolution, you have to believe that at one point in time we were monkeys that just grunted and made noises and swung from trees. And then something happened where we went from that to where we are now, where we figured out not just one, but dozens and dozens of systems of communication all over the world where we write little symbols that mean certain things and we can say noises with our mouth and we understand what we're trying to say because of that. I mean, that alone, that incredible ability to communicate, I mean, that's a gigantic...
But birds know 2 days before an earthquake or before a tornado, and dolphins. I mean, I don't even think it's so much as a primitive thing, but something we always had and are developing because our 5 senses are in such a limited spectrum of what the mathematics show that there is dimensionally.
Yeah, I always say that. We've talked about this on the show before. I call it the fart principle. Like the idea that if someone farted and you didn't have a nose and you didn't hear it, you'd have no idea. You'd be sitting in this horrible smell, and you'd have no idea. But how do we not know that there are an infinite number of senses that we just don't, we don't have. We're not capable of detecting all these other things that are around us all the time. Our imagination limits us to thinking that what we know is all that there is, that smell and touch and feel, and then what we see in front of us is all that there is. But it's very possible that our entire existence is just one tiny spot on the radio dial. and that there's an infinite number of radio stations. There's an infinite number of realities around us all the time. We just can't tune into it. That we're just oblivious to what we can't detect.
We're a very thin slice.
Yeah, but what technology may be is a breaking of those barriers. What we might be able to do with like the Large Hadron Collider and all this crazy manipulation of matter, we might be able to figure out a way to break into other dimensions.
And the mathematics shows that stuff 100 years ago developed the A-bomb, equations on a chalkboard. This is a exponential multi-level, not one jump, but several jumps past that. And they believe scientists that work there are sabotaging it because they've had blow-ups and disasters, and they can't get the thing started. It's not just that it's so giant. They're not just going to be slamming heavy particles into blocks of lead. They're going to be accelerating uranium, plutonium, and other very explosive, unstable isotopes into each other at light speed. And the scientists say, well, it could create a black hole. It could create a strangelet. It could create a quantum particle that sinks to the center of the Earth and begins replicating, and then, boom, the whole planet's gone.
We can't help it. We have this incredible desire to change things. And I think it's much like a caterpillar does not recognize that it's going to become a butterfly. They're not, at least we don't think they are. They're not aware of it. They just do what they have to do. They make their cocoon, and then they go, and they change.
I agree with you. All of this technology is a metamorphosis, yes. And the elite believe that, and we covered that in my film, Endgame Blueprint for Global Enslavement, and they openly, I mean, all the top scientists, futurists, government, UN people, they say they want to exterminate 90% of us and allow that 10% to fuse with the man-machine interface and then take off to the stars. Now, whether that's real or not, that's what the elite believe, and they already have life extension technologies they don't want the public to have access to.
It sounds ridiculous, but from where we are, it's not as big of a leap as where we're living or what the era we're living in right now in comparison to people that we know existed, like the Indians or cavemen.
Computers would be magic to them.
Yeah, man. I mean, just the ability to download something off the internet on your iPhone. I mean, that is one of the craziest things that's ever existed. The Google search, the ability to take your phone, Google something, find out information on a topic instantaneously. They didn't even have that on Star Trek. I mean, that is such a gigantic, monumental leap of access to information.
And when Magellan, 600 years ago, or 400 years ago, circumnavigated the entire world, they didn't even know what was out there.
Right, yeah, they just took chances.
He didn't make it back. Almost everyone died when the ship came back to Portugal. It was rotting and falling apart, and only a few guys were alive.
Nuts.
But imagine, they had no idea. He said, I think it's round, and I'm going around it.
Yeah, there was rats on board with them. They were all getting scurvy because nobody had vitamin C. I mean, those early traveler dudes were nuts. Well, the really nutty idea is the idea of guys like Graham Hancock, guys who believe that those early traveler dudes were just this generation's version of that, and that there's been many, many thousands of years of civilization that we don't even know about because there was a
lot of evidence does show that it gets built up and then destroyed.
I mean, look, we know that there's hundreds of thousands of near-Earth objects between Mars and Jupiter that could just crush this Earth. You know, we know it's happened.
Look at Saturn and Shoemaker-Levy comets.
Yeah. I mean, look at that, and also look at what we know has happened on this planet that comes from this planet, like Yellowstone. Like, they've just figured out, like, within the last decade that Yellowstone is this gigantic caldera volcano that's 600 kilometers across. And every time it's like a continent killer. It blows every 600,000 to 800,000 years, and it kills everything on the continent. And it happened 600,000 years ago.
And the scientist, I've had top volcanologists on. The government admits that's true. And the public has a built-in denial switch where I get emails saying, you're a liar. Yellowstone is not a caldera.
Well, it's like a gigantic game of musical chairs. It's like we hope that we are not going to be here when the music stops. You know, that's what we hope, that while our life is here and while our family's life is here and our grandchildren, everything's going to be okay. I think that life on Earth is very much like an anthill in a field. You know, the ants in that anthill, they have known nothing other than that anthill. They've only been alive for a couple of weeks. As long as they've been alive, that anthill's been there. And that anthill sustains them all, and they think this is just how it always is. And then some little kid walks by, sees that anthill, and stomps on it one day, just out of the blue. And everything changes forever. And the ants never saw it coming. They never knew it was going to happen. They would have, if they had consciousness, they never would have imagined it. Well, there's so many things that can happen to stomp our anthill. There's meteors, there's earthquakes, there's caldera volcanoes, the gigantic super volcano that is Yellowstone Park. I mean,
did you know Germany has a super caldera?
Did it?
Yeah, they're all over the planet.
I'm sure. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, if you look at mountains, I mean, where did those mountains come from? They came from activity. You know, they raise up, and it just takes a long-ass time. And we're only here on this planet for a blip.
And by the way, until the 90s, when Saturn got hit by that comet that broke in all those pieces,